The largest city in the Quebec province is Montreal, considered the cultural capital of Canada, with a contemporary cityscape. Cosmopolitan, with architecturally grand buildings and cobbled streets, quaint boutiques and cafes. And of course, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Our Ferrari Challenge drivers arrive here in support of Formula One, many having competed just last weekend at a special Ferrari Challenge race at Le Mans in France, ahead of the 100th centenary of the Le Mans 24 Hours, where Ferrari was victorious with the hypercar. As we reach the halfway point in our Ferrari Challenge North America season for 2023, great racing awaits. Welcome to Montreal. And hello everyone, it is day 2 of our Montreal weekend in support of the Formula One, and here we are with round 4 of our Ferrari Challenge North America season. Our Trofeo Pirelli and Co. Pachel drivers champing at the bit to get racing in conditions which are significantly better today than those conditions that we had yesterday. As I mentioned, we are halfway through our 2023 calendar, having been to Homestead, Miami, COTA, Road Atlanta. Here we are, Montreal, and still to come, Sonoma, Road America, and of course the finale Mondiale being held this year in Mugello in Italy, right at the end of October. We urge you to become part of the social media family and follow us, please, on @FerrariRaces. So this is precisely where we are then, Montreal, and what a venue, what a city, and what a place to go Ferrari Challenge racing in support, as I mentioned, of the Formula One Grand Prix of Canada here. What a event, what a weekend. Weather impacting and affecting yesterday, but the weather gods seemingly being kind to us today as the cars are lining up on the grid. Normally down there on the grid and in the pit lane is Shay Adam. She has the delight, in inverted commas, of being right alongside me here in our opulent studio in Montreal. Shay, at dinner last night you promised that the weather was going to be kinder to us today than yesterday, and once again you are right.
Well, Dave, it's all to do with Pirelli because, you see, they brought so many dry weather tires. I thought it would be better to give them a chance to use them, and we haven't had that opportunity so far this weekend since our practice sessions on Friday. So it's nice to finally put the slick Pirelli P0s onto the Ferraris and let them go. But let's find out a little bit more about this circuit before we let the cars roll off.
4.361 kilometers, 14 turns, 6 of them left and 8 of them are right-handers. It's a real test for our Ferrari Challenge drivers here, this 4.361 kilometer circuit. There was lots of drama in the race yesterday, some of it weather impacted, much of it weather impacted, it has to be said. So the drivers are really going to take to the track with renewed vigor and enthusiasm, I would suggest, today, and see how they cope. And lots of spectators already in here to enjoy everything that the Ferrari Challenge can offer, and the cars lined up on the grid, as you could see. Now, if my observation was correct, I think I saw Dylan Medler going from the pit lane, potentially, Shay.
Yes, you did, and that comes as a result of a penalty sustained from yesterday's race for incident responsibility with contact. Dylan Medler, who was previously on probation, being forced to start today's race, not from the back of his class, but from the pit lane behind all the cars. Good news for Dylan is that he's very quick here, so even though he is starting basically at the back of the back, he's going to be okay. We've got another driver in the field, though, who had a bit of an up-and-down race yesterday, who I expect to do a lot better today. That would be one Mr. Frank Szczesniak, pole sitter yesterday in the Copa Shell class.
My name is Frank Szczesniak, car number 122 for Triarsi Competizione. After driving the street cars, taking it to the next level, I knew I was hooked at that point. I spoke to the dealer, got involved with the Corsa Pilota program, went up through all 4 courses, and it was an amazing experience to actually drive the cars the way that they were intended to be driven. So that was really exciting to be able to do that, and then translate that into challenge racing was even more of a blast. So it's a fantastic evolution. I think taking the performance of the street cars and then being in these challenge cars and just taking it to that next level was just amazing to me. And you would have thought that the epitome was the street cars, and they are fantastic, but when you get in these challenge cars, it is amazing, and it's so addicting. No, I definitely caught the bug. We did well. We podiumed in Indy. That was fantastic. We podiumed in Sonoma. So definitely was addicted after that, and so had to come back and do the full season and just get the full experience of the Ferrari Challenge. So far the season's been okay. I had some mistakes at Road Atlanta, did well in Homestead, like to forget Coda, but doing well here. So excited about this weekend, very optimistic about this weekend, so we'll see how it goes.
And it was reasonable for Frank to have that optimism, Shay. He was on the podium yesterday.
Yes, he was. Pole position to start the race and then rounded it out with a third place finish. So that means every time Frank Szczesniak starts on pole, he walks away with a trophy. At least that's the truth so far for this year. And he is going to be rolling off a little bit further back than he was yesterday. But the good news is that Frank has learned how to race very well around this circuit.
You're absolutely right. Now, of course, Ferrari Challenge, ordinarily we have races for our Trofeo Pirelli drivers and then an additional race for our Copa Shell drivers. Here in support of the Grand Prix, we put all the cars together to make it even easier for you to understand. We color code the tops of the windscreen for you because the red cars are Trofeo Pirelli drivers. Then we see the Trofeo Pirelli AM drivers with a white sun strip across the top of the windscreen. The Shell drivers have a yellow strip across the top of the windscreen, and the Shell AM drivers with a black strip across the top of the windscreen. So 4 categories within one race. Goodness me, don't we give you value here in Montreal?
And all the cars are equal, so all the cars capable of doing the same lap time. It's the drivers that make the difference, and race control being very diligent to study the driver's performance before they come into the season to then determine what level of category they should run in. But if we see people progressing perhaps at a rate faster than expected, they can be moved up and maintain their points tally going into the further classes.
Indeed, we see that happen during the course of the season, don't we, where drivers shine and therefore they are put into a more appropriate category. When I took my course of Pelota, and they wasn't the category bad enough for me to be in, apparently, Shay. So that says it all, doesn't it? Talk about it rather than drive it, Dave. Hello, everyone. Great to have you with us for Ferrari Challenge here, the North American Series, as support to the Canadian Grand Prix, and the track is about to be unleashed to the tune of all our Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo cars. Of course, one of the peculiarities, if you will, of the Montreal track is the fact there are no acres of runoff area, Shay. Those walls, which are seemingly almost magnetic in terms of almost trying to attract the drivers into them. One or two found those walls yesterday.
Yes, they did. And the good news is that all have been fixed except for one car. So we will have 36 Ferrari Challenge cars for today's race. And that's part of the wonder of this circuit, that it's not forgiving. But the good news is that you do have the ability to get the spare parts from Ferrari, to get your spare car out if you are fortunate enough to even have one, to participate in all the events of this weekend.
Indeed so, and as you say, it's a really, really good grid of cars ready to take to the track for our 30-minute race with the Ferrari Challenge North America, that mix of Pirelli AM, Shell and Shell AM drivers. And as we see, lots of spectators just below our studio here making their way into the circuit to enjoy the Ferrari Challenge racing. It's a precursor to what is to come.
Lots of red in those stands. And hey, once again, Ferrari will be victorious in Montreal on Sunday, at the very least in this race. I am the optimist. I do cheer for Charles and Carlos as well. But it's fun to know that we have 36 cars that will be participating. 12 of them will get to stand on the podium in various positions, but indeed 4 will be class winners.
Indeed so. Of course, the podiums are split into categories. So we have a podium for our Pirelli drivers, a podium for our AM drivers in Pirelli, also a podium for our Shell drivers, and also for our Shell AM drivers as well. So that's why we're going to be seeing 12 drivers on the podium. And that is an awesome shot. Absolutely loving this shot of the cars lined up on the grid, ready to do battle their 30-minute race here. Of course, always with the Ferrari Challenge, it is a rolling start, Shay, which means that the safety car will lead the cars around for what is called a formation lap. And then it will be the responsibility of the 2 drivers that sit on the front row of the grid, Matt Kwiatkowski and Carlos de Quesada, to control the pace of the rolling start when they reach the conclusion of the lap. And for Matt Kwiatkowski, he'll be hoping for better fortune today, Shay.
Yes, he will. DNF early in the race yesterday as a result of that weather, but he starts on pole again today. Carlos de Quesada alongside him after a third place finish in yesterday's race. Row 2, Jason McCarthy still hunting for that championship, and Roberto Perena very much in it after a second place finish yesterday. Yesterday's race winner, Martin Burrows, Pride of Canada, starts 5th, and Musial 2.0 in the 6th position. Michael Petromalo and Custodio Toledo make up row number 4, and then row 5 is our Trofeo Pirelli AM pole sitter Brian Cook alongside Tony Davis, 2nd in points. Mark Muzo, another proud Canadian, is alongside Chuck Whittle for the 3rd row of the Trofeo Pirelli AM grid. And then Justin Rothberg, yesterday's race winner and championship leader, with a penalty coming into today's race, means that he does not take up the 1st place position. Cameron Root, the race winner from, several races so far this year, is the pole sitter, but David Veronin, starting immediately behind him, race winner yesterday, is on a streak, the last 3 in a row. On row 10 is Frank Szczesniak, the guy we heard from a few moments ago, who got the 3rd place finish in yesterday's race, and Jan Bernier and Eric Marsden on row 11. Jan with a very strong run and a top 5 finish yesterday, moving up the championship. Matt Dalton and Tor Haugen make up row number 12. Matt, who continues to improve this year. And then we find Mike Luley, another Canadian, with our Copichel AM pole sitter and race winner from yesterday, Lisa Clark. She is on fine form. Bruce Cleveland and Dan Cornish both chasing her in the championship, starting 2nd and 3rd in category. And then Dana Goodwin and Jeff Nunberg, both drivers with good performances in yesterday's race. Row 16 is made up of Paul Lynn getting a podium in yesterday's race, and Roger Monteforte. In row 17, we find Lance Colley, race winner in Road Atlanta, alongside Al Heggie, longtime series veteran. And then row 18, Anthony DiCarlo, and finally Dylan Medler with that pit lane starts. We're going to have to keep an eye on car number 15 as it charges its way up through the field.
There are a lot of drivers, Shay, dare I say it, that will consider themselves somewhat out of position, and therefore with some overtaking to do, which of course is absolute pleasure for us to see these drivers work their way through a packed grid of cars to get to where they think they deserve to be. So you can see that the safety car is backing them up. They will go side by side in grid formation then, and then it will be the responsibility of the front row of the grid to control the final part of the rolling start, and it is such a lot of cars. The excitement is building, certainly inside our commentary booth as Shay and Dave get ready to bring you all the action from this Ferrari Challenge race. You can see they're already champing at the bit is Jason McCarthy. He's doing that, of course, to just use the braking system to generate some temperature into those Pirelli tyres, because the more braking temperature he has, it dissipates through the rims and onto the tyres, Shay. It's a plan from all the drivers, isn't it?
It's all about getting your car into the optimum operating temperature, and that's what Jason McCarthy is working on by stomping on the brakes, as you rightly say. It's nice to see also we get that side-by-side start, as yesterday we were denied that honor because of the weather conditions, as now the field is in the control of Matt Kurgiewski and Carlos de Quesada, right alongside, being very patient. This is going to be painful for all the competitors. Don't unleash the horses too early.
Yes, hold on to them. Don't let them bolt before it's time. Of course, Dylan Medler, we saw, is going to have to start from the pit lane. So the cars round the final chicane on the formation lap, and now the speed gradually increases. Matt Kurgiewski then, and Carlos de Quesada right alongside. And as soon as the lighting gantry goes green and we get the green flag flying, it is time to go racing. Ferrari Challenge, we are live in Montreal. Matt Kurgiewski immediately under threat here as there's a sandwich there. And that's really bad news. I think that's Jason McCarthy.
I believe you're right, as also Michael Petromalo goes off for a spin, and I think that's 2.0 facing the wrong direction as well. But that was a bit of a dive bomb, as a brilliant start from yesterday's race winner, Martin Burrows. He wound up in the back of Jason McCarthy, and Jason finds himself facing the wrong direction for the 2nd day in a row at turn number 1.
Absolutely. Now, Martin Burrows, of course, is going to have the bit between his teeth. He's tasted the rich vein of success yesterday in front of a home crowd. He wants to repeat that and was very, very ambitious right at the very start. And you can see how keen he is now. He's in the silver and black car that you can see really chasing down here. And Martin Burrows was very much my tip for the top going into this. And you can see Robert Perina. And he's having a real battle going on here with Carlos de Quesada. And Carlos losing out to Roberto Perina. Of course, it's all playing into the hands of Matt Krajewski, who is up the road.
Yes, exactly, and that's what happened yesterday. So we need to watch Matt Krajewski through this sequence of corners, because yesterday, this is where his race ended. As a result of the conditions, hit a puddle, it speared him off the track in the wrong direction, and unfortunately, he came to a final rest at driver's left, but he has surpassed that point from yesterday and will continue on in the race today, I'm very happy to say. Roberto Perina, though, wow, what a start. Yesterday, having set the fastest lap of the race, finds himself third in the championship. He's a little bit behind Jason McCarthy and Matt Krajewski as all of a sudden Martin Burrows going very, very offline through the kink onto the front straight. But we know Perina wants a race win. He also wants points. Right now, the guy he's chasing leading the way. That's not helping.
Tony Davis, of course, is wanting points as well in Pirelli Am, and he's leading that category right now. He's put himself into P5 in the race overall, and that is leading in Pirelli Am, so he's got ahead of Cook, and Muso's running P3 at the moment. And here we can see from a helicopter in replay there that sandwich was never quite going to work. And as you say, a little bit of an assist, wasn't there, from Martin Burrows on the back of the Jason McCarthy car?
Yes, there was, and also with the spinner in 2.0, that's what caught out Brian Cook and opened the door for Tony Davis. Very optimistic, very smart driving from Tony Davis to be able to squeeze on through.
He did squeeze through, didn't he? He made that 488 Challenge Evo thin enough to go through that gap.
You know,
brilliant to see so many replays.
I wondered what he was doing this morning, Dave, when we saw him coating the car with some butter and olive oil. It makes sense now.
Well spotted, Shay. You saw that and I didn't. Well, Tony Davis now is under a bit of pressure, however. But we will see how he copes with it. He seems to be able to soak up the pressure pretty well, to be fair. So the order is Matt Krajewski is leading in Trofeo Pirelli. Tony Davis for Pirelli Am drivers. For the Shell drivers, Cyril Choksi has gone to the top spot ahead of Ray Acosta. And then, no surprise here, Lisa Clark is leading in Shell Am.
Oh, excellent. I'm very impressed with Cyril Choksi. Yesterday's race did not go as he had planned, finished 6th, still sits 3rd in the championship after that race yesterday, but now there's a bit of a gap to David Veronin and Cameron Root, who are 2nd and 1st in the championship, respectively. So Cyril, who does know how to win, getting the win back at Homestead Miami Speedway, trying to set himself right on that, as Cameron Root is falling down the charts.
Absolutely. I just picked that up as well from the graphics that you and I can both see here in our studio, as Brian Cook is really mounting the pressure now on Tony Davis. Brian will think that Tony is something of an imposter in that P1 position, having snuck through when he did, but nonetheless, track position is everything, and currently Tony Davis is P1, Brian Cook is P2. It is the battle that's going on. Oh, and a couple of cars there, Shay.
That is Ray Acosta in one of the cars. I saw Pirelli bouncing across the pavement in the runoff area, actually, where Carlos Sainz came to a rest yesterday in FP3. As the full course caution is out, I can't identify who the second car is involved there. It might be Michael Petramalo, an all-white Ferrari. It could also be Michael Porter.
Yes, fair point, fair point. Okay, so we get a full course yellow then, and this is the big loser in that.
No.
And that, of course, is Matt Krajewski, because what he'd done, he'd built a marvellous lead of very nearly 3 seconds over Roberto Perina and Carlos de Quesada. And now, as we both know, that gap counts as nothing because effectively it gets neutralised, and therefore Matt is going to have to do it all over again. But of course, right up his trumpet when it comes to restart time is likely to be Roberto Perina, and we can see that Martin Burrows is was in there as well. We can see the number 22 car here.
Well, that's good news. That means that it's not Michael Porter who's involved in that scamp at turn 1, but that unfortunately means that it's more likely to be Michael Petramalo.
think you're right. I think you're right. A bit of damage there on the Michael Porter car. Oh, and this is Martin Burrows coming in.
Would this potentially be a drive-through penalty for the incident responsibility
so.
for contact?
Let's see as he's continuing at the regulated speed through the pit lane. If he makes his way back out, you're absolutely right. You've called that correctly. So,
Come
yes.
on, Martin. Beat out the safety car.
And that's the time. That's the time, isn't it, to take a drive-through penalty, of course, from Martin Burrows.
Does that mean that he now cycles out in the lead?
No.
Because he was not down a lap. I'm
So
very
he-
confused by this.
Well, he's now going to have to catch up with the crocodile, isn't he? Which is really, really unfortunate. Ordinarily...
But Dave, he wasn't down a lap.
I
Ordinarily,
know.
the pit closed light would be on at the exit of the
Yeah.
pit lane, but I don't think it was. So that should mean that by serving that penalty, now Martin Burrows is in the lead of the race. Oh, is David Veronin is in the pits? No, he's our
the 177
consecutive-
car.
Yes, our consecutive race winner from the last 3 events, and it looked like some left side damage. A lot of smoke pouring out of that car. I think that would have been from contact, Dave.
Yeah, bodywork rubbing against the tyres, and you can see the wheelers come off here. The team working very, very hard from Foreign Cars Italia, taking a look at the 177 car of David Veronin, who, of course, had a stellar drive yesterday to take P1 in class. And actually, his season thus far has been stellar. In fact, it was a 3-win streak, wasn't it, as we reached the end of the race yesterday.
Yeah.
So, despite the fact that we can see the medical crew there can confirm, and we're hearing from race control that every driver is perfectly okay, it's normal practice, isn't it, that the drivers are just looked at by the medical team. And Shay, once again, I'm sick of saying this, you were correct. Michael Petromolo.
I'm sorry to have been correct on that one, actually,
Yeah, of course.
Dave. Significant damage to both cars, unfortunately. It looks like a big coming together between the two drivers coming into that first turn. But the good news is that, as you rightly say, they both are out of their cars. They are both with the medical officials, as is standard operating procedure. I did notice on the graphic on the side of our screen, the tombstone, as we call it, they had listed Lisa Clark down in 3rd in the Copa Shell AM category. So not entirely sure what happened to Lisa before we went to that full course caution, but it does mean that Dan Cornish and Bruce Cleveland were able to get ahead of her.
Yes, there's been some brilliant battles between Lisa and Dan, who are firm friends off the track. But of course, when it comes to being on the track, they are fighting for the positions all the time. There's been some fantastic driving between both of them. Right, let's take a look at this here then, Shay.
There's Jason McCarthy, who's clearly having an issue at the left front. He was waving people by. That was contact actually with the pit exit as well for Ray Acosta.
Goodness me. I really didn't expect to see the contact there. But, well...
McCarthy was having an issue as well, though, Dave.
Yes,
That's
he
the
was.
interesting thing.
Yes, he was. Thankfully, as I said, we've had it confirmed to us that both the drivers are perfectly okay. I mean, the integral strength of these 488 Challenge Evo cars is enormous, and great to know that both of the drivers are perfectly okay. Now, our graphics on the left-hand side of the screen showing Martin Burrows quite rightly right at the top now. I'm not absolutely convinced that's going to stay that way, Shay, but what do I know?
It's what they called for. They called for a drive-through penalty. Martin Burrows did his drive-through penalty at the reduced speed, but at the reduced speed of the safety car, it's meant that he now is the leader of the race, even though he's at the back of the pack because he was on the same lap. It's a function of the pit lane actually being shorter than the racetrack. Very interesting to see it play out, and I'm not sure how race control will redress the situation. But technically, Martin Burrows has gone further in this race than anyone else. Oh, there's the incident for Jason McCarthy, and he took out Lisa Clark.
Lisa Clark.
That's why she fell down to 3rd.
And you can see Dan Cornish was just in the perfect place to take advantage of that. And
Oh, so Ray Acosta and Michael Petromolo actually having contact earlier on in the lap,
that was
resulting
before.
in both cars coming to a stop before the beginning of the straight. Oh, that was Cameron Root, excuse me.
So that's what's taken Cameron Root out. So that explains that now. But Ray Acosta, certainly, you're absolutely right, but you're quite correct. We'd wondered why Cameron Root had dropped down the order, and that's the reason why.
Gosh, it's wide open today as far as the Copa Shell class is concerned, because our two previous race winners in David Veronin and Cameron Root are, well, not listed where they should be. They are listed as stopped, and indeed will not be going any further. So, Cyril Choksi, big opportunity to make up some points here. And as we mentioned a little bit earlier on, Cyril was a bit further adrift than the other two in the championship. Today is exactly what Cyril needs to catch back up.
Of course, he will, if he can max out his points haul, whilst those that are dropping points, it's playing nicely into his hands, isn't it? So, yeah, very, very interesting. And that's what's fantastic about the Ferrari Challenge North America, is the fact that, there are so many drivers who can vie for those championship points. And the way we score in Ferrari Challenges, it's not only the success in the race that scores you points, but also fastest laps and pole positions as well, Shay. So points make prizes, of course they do, and every point sometimes can be really, really important when it comes to the end of the race. There is the Tony Davis car. Now, Tony Davis, incidentally, is leading in Trofeo Pirelli Am, and there is Brian Cook, who will be chasing him now. Tony Davis with a very bold move when the opportunity, Lady Luck offered him the opportunity, and he went through, however much of a squeeze it would be, and he has taken the lead of the race. Oh, goodness me, that looks very, very sad indeed, because that is yesterday's race winner, the local driver, who is unfortunately seemingly out of the race.
Oh, how devastating for Martin Burrows. And he does have quite a bit of damage to the nose from that contact that resulted in him necessitating the drive-through penalty. So, Martin, I took a screenshot for you of you bleeding by quite a bit, but unfortunately it's not going to stay that way for the end of the race. No,
that's an awful shame, because, to have taken the win yesterday and potentially to have taken the win again today and to be on the top step of the podium, or any step of the podium, he would have been delighted. So Tony Davis, who I was talking about just a few moments ago for Continental Autosports, now he was one of a number of drivers from Ferrari Challenge North America that were competing in Le Mans last weekend in the Ferrari Challenge, a one-off Ferrari Challenge race there in support of the Le Mans 24-hour race, and drivers doing a fantastic job in that endurance classic. Just to be part of that was awesome, and Cyril Choksi was another one of those drivers as well. Really, really enjoying the experience. And of course, he's enjoying the P1 position in Copa Shell at the moment, Shay.
I'm sure he's very happy to continue this race behind the safety car, saying, yeah, guys, it looks too dirty. I don't think we can go back to racing. Cyril would be very pleased with a first place result here today. And Cyril, even if it did finish behind the safety car, you still earned it thus far, as has Dan Cornish, by being in the right place at the right time. And Dan, who missed our round at Road Atlantis, still finds himself in second in the championship by a dint of 3 out of 4 podium finishes so far this year.
Been supremely consistent as Dan. Here is our overall race leader, Matt Kurjewski, and he is P1. He was P1 the early stages of the race yesterday, and well done to the team here, who it would appear have got the stricken cars cleared away, which should mean that we'll be going back to green sooner rather than later, Shay.
Yep, I would hope so. And you mentioned the drivers doing well at Le Mans. We also need to give a shout out to Matt Kurjewski, our race leader, because he not only went over to Le Mans, he won his class at Le Mans in the Ferrari Challenge race. So that is something truly special.
He and I had a glass of lemonade together in Casa Ferrari to enjoy the moment. Custodio Toledo, you can see there in the number 88 car, finished at P5 yesterday, and Custodio Toledo is one place ahead of where he was yesterday. He is P4 currently within class, although he has got 3 Pirelli Am drivers ahead of him: Mark Musso, Brian Cook and Tony Davis. So lights still flashing on the safety car at the moment. But as soon as we get news that we will be going back to racing, of course, we will bring that to you. We've got just under 15 minutes of the race remaining, Shay. That's enough time for other things to happen.
what a scrap it's going to be in Trofeo Pirelli AM when we go back to green. Trofeo Pirelli as well for the overall lead of the race between Roberto Perena and Matt Krzyzewski. But Tony Davis, Brian Cook, Mark Musso, they all want to win here. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch, especially considering that it was Justin Rothberg who came away with the victory from yesterday's race. He finds himself back up in 4th in class. So I might just keep one weary eye on that Trofeo Pirelli cluster of cars at the front.
Fair point. Very fair point. Should pick up Eric Marston as well, who's running P3 at the moment in Copa Shell. It's Cyril Choksi leading that category ahead of John Viscup and then Eric Marston. But he's going to have Frank Szczesniak breathing right down him, and Jan Bernier as well. And don't discount Jan from a potential podium in this race. So an awful lot can happen. It all really rather depends on when we will go back to racing. And the number 29 car that Shay was talking about just a few moments ago, Justin Rothberg, he's gonna really feel that an opportunity for a podium is here for him.
He really will, and especially considering the adversity he's had to overcome so far this weekend to come away with a pole, a win, and then what was a very good starting position for today's race, moving him further back down the grid, though. I'm really excited to see what Rothberg can do, particularly considering, look at that, Dave, he's back in his main car. Yesterday, he ran in the T car, as it looks like we are going back to green.
Hold on to your hats, everyone. Let's go back to Ferrari Challenge Racing then. Matt Krzyzewski got to do it all over again, and Roberto Perena's going to keep him mean. And the two P1 and P2 cars really breaking away from Carlos de Quesada. Now, Tony Davis has got to do the same in Pirelli AMs from Brian Cook, and Cyril Choksi and John Viscup will have a battle, as will Dan Cornish and Jeff Nunberg in the Copa Shell AM drivers. We have 13 minutes of racing remaining, Ferrari Challenge style.
Let's see if Roberto Perena can turn up the heat and get up to Matt Krzyzewski, because Matt has become the master of restarts and is doing exactly what he's proven so far this year by pulling away as we go back to full course caution. Not entirely sure why as of yet, but the battle in Trofeo Pirelli AM was exactly what we hoped it would be, and it had just started to heat up nicely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Tony Davis was sticking his elbows out, and Mark Musso was in the mix as well. And for Brian Cook, of course, he was stuck right in the middle of those two, hunting and being hunted at the same time. But as you say, we're back to full course yellow, which means the cars are all reduced down in speed once again. And there is an old adage, isn't there, Shay, in motor racing that full course yellows tend to breed yellow. And that's exactly what we've got. Let's take a look here. This could
going
be the
to
reason
turn one.
why.
Is that Cyril Choksi getting turned around? I hope not. No, it's not a dark blue car. It's a black car. That is...
And it's a T car. It's Jeffrey Nunberg.
Yes.
Isn't it? It's Jeffrey Nunberg.
Well spotted. So that was second in our Copa Shell AM class, and there's quite a bit of debris being thrown across the racetrack as Jeff is able to continue. But unfortunately, he does have a movable aerodynamic device on the front of his car, and not in a manner that we would hope.
No, that might encourage the meatball flag to be shown. The meatball flag is normally shown. It's the black flag with the orange disc in the middle, which is just indicative to a driver that he has got some bodywork defect or mechanical defect, and I suspect that will have to be attended to.
I'm quite gutted for Jeffrey Nunberg, to be honest about that, Dave, because he's such a nice man who is an integral part of Ferrari of Central New Jersey. He came into this series last year and then ultimately decided, you know what, the racing, I might not be ready for that yet. Let me continue to do some of the club challenge events, continue to work my way up to it. And he did take the step back. He wanted to keep his car nice and clean. A very smart decision by the man, who then made the step up this year and has been doing very well, has Jeff. He actually got fastest lap and made it onto the podium at Circuit Americas and at Road Atlantis. So the progress we've seen from Jeff Nunberg this year has been remarkable.
Yes, and really disappointing for him. But there we are. The motor racing can be oh so beautiful, but oh so brutal at times as well. And it is all part of the rich experience that you gain. I mean, the whole Ferrari Challenge, you talked just a moment there about Club Challenge, which is like the precursor, if you like, to entry into the Ferrari Challenge. But if we go back even further than that, Shay, and we heard from Frank Szczesniak earlier on in our program, of course, when you go through the course of Pelota, where they take such care to really, really look after you as a potential driver. I mean, it is in terms of schooling through to becoming a competitive Ferrari Challenge driver, Ferrari have got it nailed absolutely perfectly.
It's honestly the best ladder system in the world as far as bringing drivers from the street, in which they think they know their Ferraris pretty well, to letting them go on the racetrack with their street cars, to then introducing them to race cars at a reduced pace, at a non-competitive environment, so that you can learn what it is to drive quickly on a racetrack, to then learning what it is to drive quickly on a racetrack in a slightly more competitive environment. You're basically heating the water up so slowly that by the time the drivers get into the Ferrari Challenge in the Copa Am category, they're ready and they're hungry. And then they learn, exactly as Dave Musial 2.0 has done, how to get faster and faster each year. As I said before, the cars are all the same. It's all about the driver's skill level, as the marshals have significant skill level that they've demonstrated by running out on the track. And thank you to all of our marshals for helping out this weekend.
Should just mention that whilst having lunch with Dan Cornish a weekend or so ago, Dan's wife is one of those that competes in the Club Challenge, and I was teasing her about when we're going to see her in a Ferrari Challenge car. Maybe not too long to wait.
Oh, that would be fun.
Tantalising prospect. So we will see. Dan doing a good job out there at the moment, of course, because he is leading in Shell Am, and I think as the cars being stacked up here, we're not far away from going back to racing.
The lights are out on the safety car. That does mean that the field is back in the control of Matt Krzyzewski, and the safety car will speed up here in just a few moments and then disappear from the track, and it will be only Ferraris out once again.
So very much looking forward to that. So Matt Krzyzewski having to do it all over again. Roberto Perina will feel it's another opportunity that has been gifted to him. Brian Cook potentially will feel the same way for the Trofeo Pirelli Am drivers. So Matt trying to weave from side to side just to generate a little bit of temperature, but also to perhaps break the concentration of Roberto Perina right behind him. But I think it's even better this time as Perina and Krzyzewski really get away now, and they've left Carlos de Quesada almost standing as the green flag flies and we go back to racing.
Oh, here we go. Roberto Perina with the sniff of possibility for a win. He knows what it's like to finish second here, having done it yesterday. He doesn't want to repeat that. And the same can be said for the Cookie Monster. Brian Cook is absolutely on it. The right foot is down, and the Australian is all over the back of Tony Davis.
Yeah, so Tony is metaphorically going to have to stick his elbows out here, and Mark Musso wants to join that three-way fight in Trofeo Pirelli as well. He's currently running P3, so what Cookie is trying to do here is really mount the pressure on Tony Davis. Tony Davis soaks it up. Now, of course, if Tony Davis could get on terms with Carlos de Quesada and get himself a little cushion of a Trofeo Pirelli car between himself and between himself and Brian Cook, then that would be advantageous, but at the moment, it's too far away for that to happen, I would suggest. And all of a sudden, we've got something of a four-way, five-way fight going on. And Tony Davis leading that little gaggle of cars at the moment. And despite Roberto Perina really anticipating when Matt Krzyzewski was really going to go for it, I have to say he's broken away now from Perina just a little bit. Mark Musso, a little love tap on the back of the car there of Brian Cook. You can see some smoke coming off of that, some bodywork damage there. That is going to hamper his efforts to get on terms with Tony Davis.
Oh, how unfortunate for Brian Cook, who was driving a beautiful race on that restart. And now, yes, the contact with Mark Musso has sent up quite a bit of white smoke in the air. But I think you're right, Dave. I think it's just body rub at this point. Hopefully the Pirelli is stout enough to stand up to that, and Brian Cook can continue.
Of course, it's really advantageous to Tony Davis, who is leading in Trofeo Pirelli Am. Cook is P2, Musso P3, and Musso having another go now. And of course, let's not discount the number 29 car of Justin Rothberg, who would love to be in touch with this little gaggle as well. And I think with 5.5 minutes remaining, there is a chance that he could do that.
Yeah, for sure. And Custodio Toledo separating Chuck Whittle from the battle as well. And Chuck is hot on the heels, but it is still Cyril Choksy leading the way ahead of John Viscup, and then Eric Marsden, Frank Szczesniak, and Jan Bernier. So the battle for Copa Shell is all together as well.
I think the final podium place in that shell is going to be a real fight going forward. And as we could see there, coming under attack was the Matt Dalton car who got turned around. There was definitely an assist there. Was that Thor Haugen?
It was Thor Haugen. You are correct, Dave.
Very, very unfortunate. And here we can see just the little kiss you can see there that we called between Mark Musso, who just was a bit ambitious on the back end of the car of Brian Cook, which has caused that to be smoking. But for the moment, it all looks to be good. I mean, he's got the pace back, and he's now beginning to really reel in Tony Davis once again, Shay.
We are under 4.5 minutes to go in this race, and Dan Cornish leads the way in the Shell AM class ahead of Roger Monteforte, who actually holds the fastest lap so far of that class. And then we find Lisa Clark and Bruce Cleveland. And Dylan Medler, not really able to make his way up through the field with all of these interruptions, finds himself down in the 20th position overall, as Frank Szczesniak now all over the tail of Eric Marsden. This is going to get fun.
You're absolutely right. I can see Custodio Toledo has dropped 2 or 3 places down on the left-hand screen of our graphics, or the graphics on the left-hand side of our screen. And that's the reason why. So Custodio Toledo in the number 88 car then, regrettably for the collection, it looks like his race is over. And also another car passing just below us here, Shay. Thor Haugen. Well spotted. So Eric Marston under some pressure now because, and this is for the final podium place for our Shell drivers, it's Frank Szczesniak that is really putting the pressure on Eric Marston, which is playing into the hands nicely of Cyril Choksi and John Visca. But as you can see, Dan Cornish, who's running P1 in Shell AM, he's got quite some gap before Roger Monteforte and Lisa Clark, who has got herself back into a podium place.
No pressure on Dan Cornish whatsoever, and no pressure on Roger Monteforte. Also, it's Lisa Clark 1.1 seconds behind him the last time they crossed the line. So this is a good showing so far for our Shell AM cars off that restart.
So just under 3 minutes remaining as Szczesniak then closes onto the back of the Eric Marston car. Eric then doing everything he can to prevent the likes of Frank Szczesniak going by, and this battle for P2 is between Visca, Marston and Szczesniak. And as I say, Mark Musso there in something of a battle with Justin Rothberg. Now, I said that we'd got enough time as Justin almost kisses the wall there on the, that's the wall of champions. He just let the back end slide into that, and Musso really under pressure here. So Justin Rothberg was our tip for the top to come through the pack, and despite the safety cars, he's absolutely doing that now.
Goodness, this is going to be a tough battle. Justin Rothberg will go full elbows out to try and get his way up on the podium, but Mark Musso, Canadian, wants to get a trophy from this weekend, and this is his opportunity.
Equally, just ahead of them, Tony Davis is having to stick his elbows out because Brian Cook is right on Tony Davis now. It's a brilliant battle that is going on here.
Wow, great defending from Musso. Moving over to the middle of the track early on to try and keep Rothberg behind. And I think you're right. I think Rothberg just barely kissed the wall there, didn't he? Oh, how close was that?
Absolutely fantastic racing from Ferrari Challenge, and well done to Justin and also to Mark Musso for providing such great entertainment in terms of racing. Of course, they are all after being on the podium here. We've got just over a minute remaining. Matt Kojewski is leading the race from Roberto Perena and Carlos de Quesada, but the big battles going on in the other categories, including this one. It is Trofeo Pirelli Am, where at the moment it's Davis from Cook, from Musso and Rothberg, and I have to be honest, within the 60 seconds remaining, it could still go any way.
Yep, we'll get the white flag this time by, or we should at least, but Brian Cook winless this year. Tony Davis winless this year. Mark Musso got the first win of the season and has not gotten back to the top step since. So this is going to be entertaining as we now begin the final lap.
Oh, goodness, I know that it's a big day here at the Montreal circuit, but please, can we have special permission to extend the race by a couple of laps, because it is such a good race. Regrettably, I have no influence whatsoever, and we are on the final lap, as you quite rightly say. And Matt Kojewski righting the wrongs of yesterday, and he is leading this race now. He's got a comfortable margin. I say leading the race now, he's done it from the off, but he's got a comfortable margin now of 1.5 over Roberto Perenna, who I have to say I've been really impressed how he took the battle to Matt Kojewski on every opportunity that he could do that, but equally, Kojewski just soaked up that pressure from the restarts, Shay.
He did, and this is going to be another important points day for Roberto Perenna. He's going to be tired of coming home with the second place trophies instead of the winner ones, but he'll be okay with settling for the points gain on Jason McCarthy. Yes, he's not closing down to our championship leader, Matt Kojewski, but he is still getting closer to second, and every position matters in this championship.
Absolutely it does. As we said earlier on, points make the ultimate prizes, and Matt Kojewski then in car number 21, who had a torrid time of it yesterday. He's taken some 4 wins in the season so far, and is he going to make it 5? Well, don't say anything until one can see the checkered flag, but the checkered flag is unfurled now for Matt Kojewski as he crosses the line. P1, Roberto Perenna, P2. These are our Trofeo Pirelli cars. It's going to be Carlos de Quesada that takes P3. Now, Tony Davis holds on for a brilliant win ahead of Cook, and Justin Rothberg just getting by Mark Musso to take P3, the final podium place. Now, for our Shell drivers, it's getting very busy there. Cyril Choksi takes the win ahead of John Viscup, and Eric Marston holds on to that P3 place. Then it's Frank Szczesniak and Jan Bernier. We should see a yellow for a Challenge Evo, and that belongs to Dan Cornish, who heads towards the timing line, and it's Bruce Cleveland, P2. Lisa Clark, obviously, in strife because Paul Lynn, Shay, it's the second podium this weekend for Paul Lynn.
Yes, Lisa, 2 laps ago, getting knocked down to the 5th place in class, and then last lap around, Roger Monteforte going from 2nd to 4th in the class. So some drama occurred in the Copa Shell AM category in those dying moments of the race.
So Paul Lynn then, who up until this weekend in Copa Shell AM hadn't tasted the podium, and he's done it 2 in a row. Well done, and well done to Matt Kojewski. Absolutely brilliant driving from that young man. He's a great racer, I have to say, and thoroughly enjoyable to watch him and his racecraft. And when the chips are down, as indeed they were yesterday, he's dug deep overnight, picked himself up, and delivered today.
That he has, and especially considering that yesterday his car was in the wall very early on, meaning he got less laps around this track. He has less experience than all the other drivers who participated in yesterday's race. But the good news, track being dry today, brand new day, brand new opportunity, and Matt Kojewski took full advantage of that, extending his championship lead. The New York man will be very happy going into the next round at Sonoma in about a month's time.
Very much so, and really nice to see all our Ferrari Challenge drivers with their hands out of the window, saluting the fans that are making the way, of course, here, and not only to enjoy the Ferrari Challenge racing, but some other race that's going to happen here as well, and also to salute the volunteer marshals, of course, without whom we couldn't go racing. Confirmation of the result then, Matt Kojewski taking P1 ahead of Roberto Perenna and Carlos de Quesada. For Trofeo Pirelli AM, it was Tony Davis, Brian Cook and Justin Rothberg, the top 3. Then for Copa Shell, Cyril Choksi, John Viscup and Eric Marston. And for the Copa Shell AM drivers, the top 3, Dan Cornish, Bruce Cleveland. And for the second time this weekend, Paul Lynn will be on the podium. So the full classification, as you can see on screen. Well done to all our drivers, wherever they finished, because they put on terrific shows in very difficult circumstances yesterday from a weather perspective, but today it's bone dry, and the racing has been awesome. You can just see Matt going past the stricken car of Martin Burrows, who has not had the result today that he would have liked, but nonetheless he will pick himself up from that, and as Shay has said, when we head off to Sonoma in around about a month's time, it'll be reset, and we will go all over again with Ferrari Challenge. So let's see Kojewski jump out of the car then. He'll be pretty happy with this result, Shay.
and Roberto there to meet him from the very famous and successful Ferrari team, Scuderia Corsa. Wonderful to see such camaraderie within the teams, and of course his coach there as well, Matt Krajewski, picking himself back up and feeling very, very happy. His filling coach, I should say, his normal coach is Alessandro Balzan, who is off driving this weekend, and Matt Krajewski celebrating with everyone he possibly can find.
As you say, Roberto, that you saw first offering his congratulations. Roberto Amorosi is, well, he has such passion for this racing, and Matt is pretty pleased with that, isn't he? And this is the camaraderie which is lovely in the paddock of the Ferrari Challenge. As you can see, drivers, of course, they are so competitive when they're out there on the track. But when the checkered flag falls, Shay, and the cars come back into the pit lane, then it's, you know, this camaraderie in this paddock is something very special indeed.
It really is. It's unlike any other series in the world where everyone is genuinely happy to be at the racetrack week in and week out. It doesn't matter finishing on pole, finishing last, just driving a Ferrari at some of these legendary race circuits in North America, as we get to do. It puts a smile on everyone's face. A slightly bigger smile when you get to drink the champagne, though, that's for sure.
To the very left of your picture is the head of Ferrari Challenge here in North America. That is Louis Colmash offering his congratulations not only to Matt but also to the team as well. And Matt's partner also in there to offer congratulations as well. Lovely to see. So well done, Matt Krajewski, but well done to all our drivers. I have to say, putting on some brilliant racing for everyone here in Montreal to enjoy. And the drivers are being ushered up to the podium now. Everything, of course, when you're at a Formula One weekend, you have to work so hard and so very quickly. You won't believe how Shay and we've been jogging to various places on account of the fact the time restrictions are such that this is where you've got to be at this particular time. I've probably lost a stone, which is no bad thing, Shay.
It is a decent weekend, but, you know, the Canadian food doesn't help either. Getting to dine on some poutine and then putting maple syrup on everything, it does impact the waistline. But the biggest problem is Tim Hortons. Always Tim Hortons in the ice cap. Matt Krajewski is still our points leader after today's race. He has extended the gap over Roberto Perena, now up into second. See, I said it was a good day for him. 73 points. Jason McCarthy is in third. So those two drivers having reversed positions for today's race. Martin Burrows, despite the DNF, actually finds himself further up in points than he was coming into today's race. In Trofeo Pirelli AM, Justin Rothberg is still the points leader, but barely ahead of Brian Cook, who vaults from fourth to second on the weekend. Brian Cook, still down in fourth, but Tony Davis in second, Mark Muzo in third, Brian Cook in fourth. So a very interesting point spread after this weekend. The drivers' names at the tops of the charts haven't changed, but the points gaps definitely have come down.
Oh, it's going to be great going to Sonoma, isn't it? Now, Cameron Root finds himself very under threat now, potentially from not only David Veronin, who's P3 in the Shell points, but Cyril Choksi, look, who moves up into P2. Just 14 points behind. So Shell is going to be very interesting when we go to Sonoma as well. But Cameron Root's still the leader in the Shell points. For the Shell AM drivers, it's still Lisa Clark, who has a 12-point margin over Dan Cornish, and Lance Corley, who's not probably banked as many points as he would like here in Montreal, is P3 in the Copa Shell AM Drivers' Championship at the moment. Still a lot of racing to come, though, Shay, and therefore a lot of points to be bagged.
That is true. We've got our weekend at Sonoma coming up in about a month's time. Then it's a bit of a break before we are off to Road America, which will be spectacular with these challenge cars out there. And then, of course, the finale Montréal, which is in Mugello this year. So 3 big race weekend events, 6 more races. And considering we have now had 8 races so far this season, yes, we've done more than we have coming up, but we still have a lot to play for.
Stefano Guy, you can see their centre picture, and it's always great to see that as many people as possible crowd around to try and salute those drivers as they come out onto the podium. Of course, the categories there as Paul Lynn is standing by, and Matteo Torre, then the president of Ferrari North America there, who I suspect, and the podium is about 3 doors to our right-hand side here, who I suspect is on trophy presentation duties for one of the categories at least.
I would think maybe the first one is he is out there, Paul Lynn, walking out onto the podium. And for the second consecutive day, Bruce Cleveland bringing his car home second, but race winner today after a big non-finish yesterday. Dan Cornish making sure that he is still firmly in this championship hunt. But the woman who leads the points is Lisa Clark, and she is also up on the podium as our Ladies' Cup winner.
Of course. So Dan Cornish P1, Bruce Cleveland P2, and Paul Lynn P3, and Lisa Clark, as you say, the Ladies' Cup winner. So you're absolutely right. Matteo Torre then making the trophy presentation. First of all to Paul Lynn. What a great weekend he has had here in Montreal. Here comes Bruce Cleveland then to receive his, and then Dan Cornish on the top step of the podium will be in receipt of the P1 trophy. They're lovely trophies, I have to say.
They are. Lisa put up a picture on social media of her 2 trophies from yesterday, the first place and the Ladies' Cup trophy. They really shine and shimmer, and just they're something that you want on the mantelpiece because of the curvature. It's very aesthetically pleasing. Ferrari Challenge do the best trophies.
I'll tell you what, Bruce Cleveland did the best when it came to uncorking the bottle, I have to say. He was very quick.
And no hesitation about spraying each other today. There's no need for these fire suits for about a month, so that's plenty of time to have them dry cleaned.
Dan was taking a well-deserved slug of that, wasn't he?
He was.
Brilliant to see. Well done. So that is our first podium completed. That for our Shell Am drivers. So the bottles are hastily removed, and the podium is set up for our next one as we see Eric Marston take to his podium place. Brilliant stuff. Love these podiums. John Viscup and, of course, Cyril Choksi will be on the top step of our Copa Shell podium. Here comes Cyril then, athletic-like, sprinting to the top step of the podium for Ferrari of Denver. Well done to our drivers in Copa Shell.
He really did a great job to win today's race, did Cyril Choksi, having to fight his way up. Yes, there was some misfortune from some of the other competitors who normally occupy podium positions, but Cyril earned that win, as was evidence on his performance on the restart, Dave.
Indeed so. Eric Marston then receives his trophy from Marc Genet, who is here this weekend, of course, and Marc Genet making the trophy presentation to John Viscup. And stand by because Cyril Choksi will be in receipt of the P1 trophy, which, as Shay so lovingly described, will shimmer and shine on the mantelpiece of the Choksi household as soon as they get back home.
And Cyril's son's very fond of his dad's first place trophies. And since Cyril got one earlier on this year at Homestead Miami Speedway, this is the second one that he's brought home this year with the number 1 on it. He's got a couple that have the number 3, but I think this one might be one that the boys decide to fight over.
And to add to the camaraderie, Cyril was telling me, alongside Lance Corley, that at the Miami Grand Prix, Lance took his one of his road cars and actually gave Cyril's son a ride around the track as well. So it just reinforces the friendship there is in the paddock.
It's so true, and trying to foster the love in the next generation as well. That's something that we always applaud.
You're right. Look at this young man.
Justin Rothberg.
He was going for it, and he made it count, didn't he, in the end? Justin Rothberg taking P3, taking P2 then. These are our Pirelli Am drivers, Brian Cook, and then on the top step of the podium, well done, Tony Davis. So their confirmation of the top 3 drivers, Tony Davis, Brian Cook, and Justin Rothberg. And it seems remarkable that it is Tony Davis is, what is it? It's going to be his second win. Didn't he take a win at Road Atlanta? Is my memory failing, or am I doing all right here?
No, Tony, this is his first win of the season for Tony Davis. He's only not been on the podium 4 times this year, so he's had a very good run. Remember, making the big jump up. Last year, he was in the Copa Shell Am category and won that championship. As a Le Mans winner is out there to hand out the trophies. Absolutely. That's Antonio Giovinazzi.
And Lucia Vagani then from Pirelli making the Pirelli trophy also, and Antonio Giovinazzi, as you quite rightly say, what a weekend he had just last weekend alongside Alessandro Pierguidi and James Collado. Salute to all 3 of them.
And getting off the champagne first, it is the Cookie Monster today. So big ups to Brian Cook with big smile on his face for Tony Davis as well. Love to see these drivers celebrating in style.
Yes, and they really do celebrate, and they've earned their little taste of success today. That's for sure. Delivering us some fantastic racing. Well done. Next up, of course, they'll be heading to Sonoma. Completely different track to that here at Montreal, that's for sure, Shay. I'm so looking forward to Sonoma because it's one of our North American circuits that I have yet to visit.
No, you haven't been to Sonoma. You haven't seen the sheep.
No.
Oh my goodness, you are in for a treat.
Okay. Everything you tell me has been accurate so far. Carlos de Quesada then goes to P3. Roberta Perena then will go to step 2 of the podium. But on the top step, we welcome the Ferrari Beverly Hills driver, Matt Kurjeski. There he is. All smiles, of course, and well done to all our drivers. Matt Kurjeski for Ferrari Beverly Hills, Roberta Perena for Ferrari of Seattle, and of course Carlos de Quesada for Ferrari Quebec.
5th win so far this season, Dave. It's been remarkable for Matt Kurjeski, considering his only non-podium finish was in the first race of the season before yesterday's DNF. So that is quite a stream he's putting together to try and win this Trofeo Pirelli Championship.
Yes, he's certainly heading in the right direction, isn't he? And he receives the Pirelli trophy as well as Antonio Giovinazzi and Lucio Vigani also pose for the photographs here in Montreal. Success for Matt Kurjeski, and well done to each and every one of our Ferrari Challenge drivers. You've done yourselves proud here in Montreal. All smiles, and the trophies are absolutely brilliant. Who's going to win the champagne race? Perena. Just, I think.
Just by a nose. Congratulations also to Carlos de Quesada. 2 podium finishes this weekend in Montreal. That's something to be proud of.
Yes, Carlos doing a great job. Actually, look. You can almost see us through the window there. You can almost see us. If the camera had panned just a little bit further to the right, you would have seen us. Oh, fantastic stuff. Well, there we have it. Everything undusted. Ferrari Challenge. We'll see you next time at Sonoma. From Shay and from myself, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.